Welcome to It's a Grand Life. Did you know that in the United States alone, 2.4 million kids are being raised by their grandparents or other family members other than mom or dad? 2.4 million. It's a Grand Life is a podcast for those grandparents and kinship caregivers who are committed to making a difference for those kids. Grand families are in every neighborhood, every city, tribe, and territory nationwide. If this is you or someone you love, this podcast is for you. Our goal is to offer hope and resources to help you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us wherever you get your audio podcasts and leave a review. Every new subscriber and review helps us reach others that need assistance. Welcome to another episode of It's a Grand Life. Hello, my name is Craig Nash, and we'd like to welcome you to another It's a Grand Life. And you're absolutely going to be blessed today. We've got Beverly V. Thomas, and her ministry / business is Two as One Forever. And she coaches folks, whether they are in the premarital setting or whether they've been married for a long time. And this is a vital component for grand families. And Beverly V. Thomas is going to tell us why. So Beverly, welcome to It's a Grand Life. And tell us, how did you get into this counseling role and coaching role, and how has it been going?
Thank you for having me today. Thank you so much, Craig. It's a blessing to be here. It's an honor. You know, Two as One Forever, it came about unexpectedly, unknowingly. It has everything to do with my life journey, whereas my husband and I are twice married to one another. That was after a 14-year divorce. So, of course, I had my plans. He had his plans. We're going in our different directions and all of that. And one day we had just a general conversation, just idle chit chat. And it just hit my spirit. That's your husband. Wow. And when it hit my spirit, I received it. I received it at that time. That was a July. We were remarried that following April.
Wow.
And and once we remarried, anybody that's married, we have our ups and downs all along the way. So when we were about 6 or 7 years back in, divorce came up a second time. And that's when I had to take the position that I was not going anywhere and I wasn't signing anything. And that really put me in a frame of mind that I had to do some self-work.
Right.
Now, Craig, we're quick to say it can't be me. It's got to be the other person, but I had to really do some soul searching. I had to really do some spiritual growth. I was in my prayer room every day, no less than 10 times a day for approximately 2 years. Lord, fix me. Yes, it took me. I always said that I was the hard-headed one. So it took me longer. Yeah. So, but going through that journey is where it was birthed in me. Two as one forever. A better you. A better marriage. It all is about what I bring to the table and not what my husband brings to the table, because I can only control self. And and that's where I had to move past looking at what I felt his shortcomings were and realized what mine are and continue to work on that, because we know we are a continuous self-work.
Oh,
yes.
Man.
So, So even with that.
I just want, Beverly, can I just clarify one point? Because if folks just tuned in, I don't want this to slide by.
Okay.
You were married to your husband for how many years first time?
We were married about 9 years the first time.
And then you got divorced?
Then we were divorced for 14 years.
And
now we have been remarried 26 years.
That's
Yeah.
just so wild. It's just and you told me when we were chatting the other day that you thought you were going to marry someone else, but you just felt like very strongly that God was telling you, no, this is your husband.
Yeah.
And now you've been together, gosh, what is that? 36 years total or
50 years.
50
We have
years?
been, yeah, we have been in each other's lives 50 years. He was my high school sweetheart. I
Oh,
went to his
wow.
prom. Yeah. So we go way back. And those are the moments in life that, we can say, hey, babe, remember when,
Right.
and actually laugh about some of the things, but then recognize the growth also that had to take place.
And that is just absolutely fascinating. And we of course live in a throwaway culture where everything, well, this isn't going to work. Let's just throw this away. Like the new Keurig pods you make your coffee with every day. You can make a
Yeah.
cup of coffee. And marriages unfortunately in our culture are the same way. But you, not only did you remarry your husband, your whole life changed. You became a marriage and relationship coach, and that's what you love to do. And tell us, how did you get into that?
That's something that I truly was led into. I have a travel agency also, and I started writing content for couples. And as I was writing that content, I was wondering then, what am I going to do with this? And being so passionate about God's marriages, and once He gave me two is one forever, it was as if He was walking me into it. I never thought that I would be coaching anyone. That has never been my desire either. But when I realized the testimony that He gave me, it became a place where I have to share it. And I'm able to share it through my coaching to be able to say, I truly understand the hurt. I understand the tears. I understand, I can empathize with you. And I can also say that I know what it takes to get through it. And it's not an easy journey. It's because we hurt and we want that hurt to stop. But I can tell you that once we do a self work, that hurt, it subsides. It really does. And you really can find yourself in a place of total peace within self. It's pretty amazing, really. When the turmoils happen in life and we think that we would not be able to endure it,
Right.
but then we find ourselves in a place of total peace, and that's where I am in life. Total peace, regardless as to the storms that take place. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how are you able to maintain that state of peace?
You
Because
know,
things come into our lives that aren't fun, and there's a lot of challenges. But to maintain that peace, it's very special.
it is, it's extremely special, and I can't credit anyone else but my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I have to have that relationship with Him. I have to be able to call on Him. As a matter of fact, I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, Lord, here I am again, calling on you again, Lord. I need you again, and I stay in that place, so that when I walk out my doors, when I have conversations with my husband, that I am able to do my best to speak calmly, not get all riled up, because we know the challenges out there in the world. It can turn us upside down instantly. We know the enemy is very good in what it does, but then we have to realize that we actually have power over the power of the enemy, and that's because God told us that. We have to use that. So I have a relationship with him.
That's you're not just reading about him in a book. You actually know.
No, no.
And I remember growing up, there was that old hymn, "He walks with me and talks
Oh
with
my
me
God.
along life's merry way. He
Yes,
lives." And
yes,
what I think in our culture people forget is that
yes,
he is a God who speaks, and he is a God who directs,
yes.
and it's very personal,
It is.
and he can take the worst, most painful situation. I'm divorced from my husband, and bring reconciliation and bring
Yes,
healing,
yes,
and then create a business out of it. I mean, it's your story is amazing, and I was referred to by our friend Lisa Grodsky from the
yeah,
Oakland Livingston Human Services Agency
yes,
because you've done a lot of work with grand families. And you're
yes.
located in Pontiac, Michigan. And I think
Correct.
you told me that about 75 or 80% of the families in Pontiac are single parent families. And
More than that,
more than
more than
that. And
yeah, 75 to 80% are single parent households in a community of less than 60,000. And that tells us how our children are affected, and because the design of mother and father is the design for family,
right,
family. And that family, that unit, that's what bring a wholesomeness to our lives when family is operating as it should. Yeah. And with me having a 14-year divorce, raising two children, I had to think how, yes, my children were okay, but then I had to think also how much better could they have been. And when I allow myself to even contemplate that, it hurts. It hurts because I now realize that I could have given them more. And I can say now, admit that it was a place of selfishness. It was,
wow,
yeah, it was a place of selfishness. What I wanted, what
right,
I felt I needed at that time, without even considering the wholeness of what I was tearing apart, or what we were tearing apart. And it's so important now to engage people in the conversation that marriage is so important, and we have to change the language with it to understand that the low parts of it is simply for the growth of
wow,
it,
yep,
so that we can keep going and learning and allowing one another to be those wonderful creatures that God has made us, and put ourselves in a position to better manage it. Better manage it. Whereas how you react, how you respond, what you're going to say. Are you going to say something that you know is going to hurt that person, shut them down? Because
right,
that's not who we should be. We are to be creatures of love.
exactly. But
Yeah.
as I'm thinking of your journey, with that 14-year break, that
Yeah.
would really equip you to talk to all the single parents in Pontiac. They can relate to you, and you can relate to them. That this I had many years with my kids where I was single myself, and how do your clients respond to that when you share your story?
you know they find it to be remarkable. And that's that's not my purpose. I understand how odd, unusual it is, but it is really for them to hear how I got through it,
Right,
what you need to get through it also, because we're such creatures of habit that when we don't get things done our way, then we want to shut it down and let it go. And we have to start learning that it's not about self. This one pastor, he's deceased now, Dr. Miles Monroe,
hmm,
in one of his books, he said, marriage is perfect because a perfect God designed it. It's the two people in it that are
Right.
not perfect. Yeah,
100%.
yeah, which means that it's a continuous self-work. God didn't make us to be perfect. He made Jesus perfect.
Right.
He didn't make us to be perfect, which means that there's always room for growth. And when we stop looking at our spouses or our partners' faults and look at our own and
Right.
see how we can better manage that, then I tell you, it was as if the daggers would just hit me and just roll off. I mean, it was like that literal feeling for me. It was so amazing as I was being purged, because that's what it was when I allowed the Lord to start working on me. It's like, because I don't believe that anyone would say something to their spouse with an intention to hurt them, to
Right.
make them feel bad. It's what's going on in our own minds, that how we receive it. And that's what we have to work on. That's
I,
self.
I,
Yeah.
I love that. And speaking of that, what would you say has been your greatest success in Two as One Forever?
The greatest success in two is one forever. Um, the greatest success would be the ability to write the book,
Right.
That's been a successful. That is Two is One, A Better You, A Better Marriage. It is a self-help book. So those that I cannot reach, it's the same thing as I'm saying to you today. It's a self-help book. Even though it's showing marriage, it is an individual self-help. That has been a huge accomplishment for me,
Awesome.
so that it can again reach those that I can't reach, or even those that, you know, marriage relationships is that entity where we're guarded. You know, we don't
Oh,
want anyone to know that we're having issues. And I get that, because I was I would be the first to say that I would not have wanted you to know that I was divorced or that I remarried my husband. But then I realized it had to be told. It had to be, I had to put it out there so people will know that because of my journey, I have total peace. And that's something no one can take from me. And that's
100%.
the beauty. So I guess when you say success of that, that would actually be the success of that. I have total peace, and I have had to journey through some other things in life that could have just totally shut me down for the rest of
100%.
my life, but I endured, thank God. And to God be the glory on that. You know,
Absolutely.
nothing Beverly is doing, but it's all what God is doing. Yeah.
So Beverly, when I think of the folks that, and we all know folks that have gone through tough times, and folks that have gone through divorce and what have you.
Yeah.
I was talking to a neighbor of mine who recently went through a divorce, and what I found when I'm chatting with folks that are going through that tough time, you're recommending that they look at themselves, that they work on the self first. But that's not what I hear when I talk to folks that are going through a divorce. What I hear is my spouse is a
Yes.
piece of work, and they use stronger language than that. And
Yes.
we would be happy as two clams, except for A,
Yes.
B, C, and D. And then we get into the money issues, and
Yes.
I'm done working with that one because of this or that. How do you get over that?
You know, I I when you have a relationship with God, He's given us some tools that are to be used and not just a part of us. And those are the tools of the Holy Spirit: that love, that gentleness, meekness, goodness, joy. I find when I allow those things to come up and be used, then you are talking different. You're thinking different. You're allowing yourself to be different. You're allowing yourself to come to the table with the best of you each time. And that's what I find. I cannot focus on what my husband is doing, what he's not doing, what I think he should be saying, what he's not saying. What I find is that I have learned how to use those tools and speak softly with it. And I tell you, I have gotten more from my husband that way than I ever thought I would. And the thing is, we think that because it takes so long that you just can't endure. It's this thing about how we move and be when we make the choice to let go, forget those things behind us,
Yep.
and reach for those things ahead. We will actually find ourselves in a place of peacefulness. We cannot allow another person to dictate who we are. Choose who you are, who you've been
Great.
designed to be. Allow that to come up and out of you, and use that towards your spouse. We're all good people, loving people.
Right.
Don't allow someone else to change that for who you are. I always say you can't fight by yourself. So if you continue to bring the love and the right attitude,
Right.
you're going to find yourself having a conversation with someone that's going to end up reciprocating. It's just, don't you choose the time for them to reciprocate better. It's not in your timing. Just keep, and you're going to feel that, well, I keep giving, I keep giving, I keep giving. The thing about marriage, nothing is equal. Nothing is equal. You're going to be the giver more than your spouse at one time in life, and the same with your spouse. Marriage is communicating and compromising and understanding that when you make plans, when you make choices, that if it doesn't work out the way it was originally said or designed, be okay with it. Okay, babe, that didn't quite work out. What do we need to do now? It's not about throwing daggers where you said this and you said that. We did it because you said that's what we should do. No, we work as oneness. There's a oneness that was put together that we have to focus more there and not get so complacent in our marriages that we talk any kind of way to our spouse. That is supposed to be the one that you love unconditionally. So our tone, our choice of words, know that when they're not right, when they're not lovely, that it hurts.
Right.
It hurts. Yeah. So
you would recommend maybe before you address your spouse, you maybe take a step back and change your tone, change your attitude, and try a little sweetness when you're, when you're chatting with your spouse, and that goes a long way, right? And sometimes I find
it goes a long way.
If I have the wrong tone, I can escalate the discussion in a heartbeat, and I may not mean to do that, but I'm taking things personally, and I'm self-promoting and self-protecting, and I've got to put this wall up, and it gets you nowhere.
It gets you nowhere. And that's the thing that we have to look at when we say we're saying to ourselves, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, everything should be working. And then you have to take a step back and say, okay, well, how is that working? How is that working for you? It's not. It's not.
100%.
Exactly. So that means that there has to be change. And when you want something better, you have to be willing to do different. What does Einstein say? If you're doing the same thing over and over and expect to get the same different results, that's insanity. Exactly. You can't keep using the same tone, having the same attitude, using the same words, and think that it's going to be turn all of a sudden be gentle to your spouse.
Right.
No, you bring that gentleness and kindness and meekness to the table, and you allow that to grow within, because everything takes time, but we have to allow the growth to take place, and and then we have to allow it to take place within our spouse. That means you're going to be giving and giving and giving for years and years and years. 26 years back in the game with my husband, and
Oh,
that's
wow.
the only husband I've ever had. We still have our ups and downs, but it doesn't last like it used to.
Right.
We can move forward. Within 15 minutes, we can be laughing and smiling again. Move on. Let it go. Yeah.
Now,
So,
that is so important, and not holding on to bitterness and anger. And now,
yeah.
in your work with the folks at OLSA,
Yes.
the grand families and the kinship caregivers that you
Yeah.
work with, is it the same message for those of us who are raising our grandkids who may have stress on our marriage because we've got 1 to 3 additional little mouths to feed in the house, and the
Yeah.
finances aren't going as far as they used to? How do you encourage the grand families you work with?
That being so um in our face today and growing, that's for a marriage, it's kind of like bringing in another mountain to have to overcome,
Right.
which means your marriage is extremely important at this point to have a place of peacefulness. Because when you can have a place of peacefulness, that lessens the stress in dealing with something that you had not planned. And it is about paying attention to everything that's happening. We know that the children today, they don't think like we think. They don't even talk like we talk, even if they end up talking. They're more closed, and we have to find those ways to communicate with them. One of the things that I suggest when it comes to the grandparents raising grandchildren, because we don't get anything 100% right, and just
Right.
just know that. But we can position ourselves to get better understanding of what we are giving them by asking them. It doesn't hurt to do a group check, maybe quarterly, to just find out, okay, some things we've gone through for this quarter. How did you feel about it?
That's great.
Is there a place in there where we can have a gratitude meeting? Not a griping meeting, a gratitude meeting. What did you enjoy about our last venture? Because we're very quick to bring up the negative things, but we must change the table, to turn the table, to let's start talking more about the grateful parts of what we're doing, because we want that to lead as opposed to the negative things. So gratitude sessions are always great.
I got to write
Let
that
them
down.
talk to you. Let them
Gratitude.
talk to you. Gratitude sessions.
What are we thankful for? Right?
Yes, exactly. What are you thankful for? And when they don't say what you want them to say, it's okay. What you're doing is allowing them to start thinking, allowing them to start speaking, allowing them to engage in having a conversation and relationship with their grandparents. Because a lot of these children, they're hurting
Right.
because they're wondering why their parents are not there. And we give them the stories and all of that, but that doesn't take away the hurt.
No.
No, but we have to allow them to let us know what they're grateful for. and allow them to build on that, because you want your grandchildren to always be in a place of joy, focusing on what's good in their lives, what makes them happy in their lives. And you feed off of that, you nourish that. And then the next quarter, whatever, if something is added to it, that's great. If they talk about the same thing, that's okay too. But you want to keep them in a mindset of joy. Joy brings peace. And that's what our children have to have. That's what they
Joy
have to.
brings peace. I love that. Because we can't do a lot when there's no peace in the house. And
Exactly.
so you would say, as a relationship coach and as the founder is Two is One Forever marital counseling services, and that you need to be on the same page with your spouse when you're part of a grand family more than ever. Because you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s. You've already raised your kids, and now you're raising your grandkids, and we're not as fast to the net anymore. But so we need to focus on what we're thankful for,
Exactly.
and have the right tonality when we're talking to our spouse.
Absolutely.
And do you ever recommend that couples get away for a little bit by themselves, or take a break and just recharge? Or have you had success with that?
Absolutely, because that gives you a different demeanor. It gives you another view of what's going on in life, because those four walls, they just tend to start closing in on you, and we are not conscious of it.
Right.
That's the thing. We're so busy moving and doing and trying to make things correct that we don't realize how it's absorbing our energy. And that's where we get tired of trying to fix it, and tired in having the same conversations over and over and over. Get away, if it's just a weekend, and just enjoy one another. Sit by the pool, sit by water, sit somewhere where you have time to do some reading if that's what you like to do. Sit someplace where you can have dinner and not talk about anything going on in life that's heavy. If anything, have conversations about those things that made you happy, joyous, so that you can relieve yourself of the stress. We all know that the stress is those things that's happening inside that we don't know what it's doing to us.
Right.
And we want to be there for our loved ones. And these are the times that stress is overcoming people. It's taking them out, and that sets us back. So it's important to get away, renew, refresh, rekindle. Yeah, so that you can enjoy one another, because the marriage is first. Even though we say our children or our grandchildren are first, the order is for the marriage to be first. And when we get our marriage right, everything else is going to fall in place.
100%.
Yeah.
It's so true. And although we may want to focus on the grands, which they definitely need our attention, but if grandma and grandpa are on the same page, they're not going to be very effective as caregivers to the little ones.
Exactly. And if it gets heavy with grandpa and grandmother, put yourselves in a position to take time and have a meaningful conversation. That means set a day, set a time. This is what I would like to talk about. Is this a good day and time for you? Whether it ends up a 5-minute conversation, whether it ends up as a half-hour conversation, set that time where your phone is turned off. You're not curious as to if who's buzzing you or texting you and all of that stuff. Your grandchildren, they are down for the night or whatever, or at school, where you can have that real, meaningful conversation without interruption. Many times, there's that tendency to bring up everything else,
Right.
but that's when you have to say, no, that's not what we're talking about right now. Let's stick to the subject. And because it'll be something new, if it doesn't work, then you simply say, okay, this is not a good time. Let's come back to it. Let's set another day. Let's set another time for this particular topic only. And until you get resolution, you're going to keep coming back to that particular topic, because you have to keep growing and finding ways that's going to allow you to do different, to
100%.
do. It's only going to change if you're doing things different. Yes.
Well, I just love that. And focusing on the gratitude, and joy brings peace, and turn the phones off if necessary.
Yeah.
But Beverly, you've just got a wonderful work going on here. We just appreciate you so much for the work you're
Thank you.
doing with our grand families in the Pontiac area, and encouraging everyone. But you are like the ever ready bunny. You don't stop. I mean, you've got the 2 as 1 forever counseling. You have your travel agency, right?
Right.
Called Eternal Passion Travel.
Right.
And then you're an author, and you wrote the book 2 as 1 forever.
Right.
What's next on the docket for Beverly V. Thomas?
Well, I am getting ready. Thank you. I'm getting ready to start a business as a wedding officiant
Okay.
that will also cover premarital coaching along with the post-marital coaching. That will be called Hearts in Motion.
Excellent.
Hearts in Motion, because we're seeing that marriages last 50% longer when people have gone through premarital coaching. And I have a 12-week course with that, because the first question is to each individual, what is marriage to you?
Great.
And when you have difference of opinions, it's okay. We're different people, but we should allow the other person to be upfront, open and honest with who they are. And then that's going to give you better insight for who they are, who you are, and if it is something that you feel that you can live with. Because in my post-marital coaching, I will never, ever say to anyone, regardless as to the trials they are enduring, I will never say to them, you need to leave that person. You need to divorce that person. I've learned for my own self that I serve a God that does not honor what we do here on this earth when he has said that he has joined 2 together as one. That is what he has shown me. It doesn't make any difference what we call ourselves doing. So Hearts in Motion is going to capture that. Let's do some premarital coaching. Let's get married. Let's take some vacation time and nurture it.
Beautiful.
And focus on that relationship that has been joined as one. With that, there truly is a place of total peace. And when you look for that total peace within, it can't help but filter over into the marriage, because you have him, you have her, and you have the marriage. That's your 3-stranded cord right there.
I love it. It just so the new sideline, if you will, the new business is Hearts in Motion.
Yes.
And we're following on the 2 as 1 forever. And the website, if you want to check this out at home, I know it's at the bottom of our screen, but it's the number 2 as AS1, the number 1 forever.org. And Beverly's got a lot of resources there that you'll want to check out. If you want to email Beverly, It's info at the number 2 as one, number 1, forever.org, and send her an email with maybe some questions or maybe how you could connect with her, or you could give her a call. And that's 947-999-6949. And she is in the healing hearts business and doing a phenomenal job. Highly recommended to me from one of our closest friends here at It's a Grand Life. And Beverly's going to be on from time to time and give us some tips for grand families in the midst of some marital challenges. She's going to help us find a way out. And but the main thing is stay in peace and stay in gratitude. And you don't want to be like those Israelites that wandered in the desert for 40 years and just were cranky all the time. No one wants to be married to a prankster, by the way. Just have the food for thought. Yes. And we know it's not easy because my wife and I are raising our granddaughter and love her to death, but some days it's too much. And I hear that a lot. But Beverly V. Thomas has got the skills and the resources to help you through this. And Beverly, we just thank you so much for being on It's a Grand Life. We want to have you on again and keep us posted on the next book you're writing or the next company you're starting or how you are continuing to help your neighbors in the Pontiac, Michigan area or all over now with folks can chat with you via Zoom anywhere. But just love what you're doing. And thanks so much for being our guest here on It's a Grand Life.
Thank you so much for having me, Craig. And it has been an honor. It's a joy. I hope that it's a turning point for those that are struggling, that they realize that they can have peace. They can have peace. They can endure. Yes, it does take work. It takes work. And it's a lifestyle change that is going to be happening. It's not a right now and it's all over. It's a lifestyle change, but it's a great place to be in.
It's so worth it. And I'm on a lot of the Facebook feeds for grandparents raising grandkids across the country, and there's a lot of discord on those posts, a lot of chaos and fear and folks upset. And if they had the peace that you're talking about, in the midst of it is not easy. And, my daughter is still love her to death, but she's still on the streets of Detroit and the east side of Detroit. And I don't know where she is from one day to the next. I'm just trusting that God's got her. But that doesn't give me a lot of peace when I think that way about what's going on. But I have to turn it over and know that He's got her. And that's what you can help all of us do, to walk in peace, live in peace. Yes. And I just hope our guests will give you a call or reach out to your website and just learn more about what they can do to live in gratitude and live in peace every day. So
awesome. Also on my website, there's a link for a free consultation that will put them on my schedule, so that we're not going back and forth with the phone, and schedule time with me for a 45-minute free consultation. And I'd love to talk with them.
I forgot about that. That's absolutely great. So friends, you get a free consultation and maybe you just need that diagnosis about what's going on. Get on Beverly's calendar and I'm sure it's going to be a blessing. But thank you so much, Beverly. We will see you very soon. And keep us posted on what's changing in the 2 as One Forever Ministries. Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today for It's a Grand Life. It's a Grand Life provides vital content, regulatory updates, and subject matter experts that are committed to supporting the 2.4 million kids and their caregivers from every neighborhood, every city, every tribe and territory nationwide. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review. Every new subscriber and review helps us reach others that need assistance. As caregivers, we are united in purpose. We are driven by hope while providing strength for today and hope for tomorrow. We are truly making a difference while living the grand life. If you have a suggestion for a future episode, please reach out to us. But we'll see you next time for another It's a Grand Life. Thank you for joining us.